Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Open Mic Comedy Podcast. I'm your host, Mark. This is your first time here. Welcome. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. This podcast is here for everybody on the open mic comedy circuit, whether you're a comedian, an MC, a promoter, or a tutor. Even comedy fans who are watching the stars of the future in the pub basements around the world. If you're thinking I could do that, then this podcast will guide you on what to expect on this crazy circuit right from the centre of it. Today's guest is someone who's currently tells my favourite joke on the circuit. He's an advocate that a moustache doesn't always make you look older. And if you see him at the shops and he's near soup, just either give him a hug or walk away. Please welcome to the stage, it's Mr. Kristian Allman. Hello, mate. How are you doing?
Wow, what an intro. Thank you.
Yeah, I was scouring your social media for some clips and I came across the soup and I was just like, oh my God, what on earth?
That was the phrase soup market came into my head. And I was just like, I'm really bored and I need to put something out. So yeah, I was like, why not go do that? It's really stupid. I've tried doing a few more. And the problem is in London, no one cares what you're doing in London. Like I've recorded 3 or 4 versions of that on different days where I'm going into the supermarket and just downing tins of soup and people don't care. I've done it in front of people and like no one reacts. There's too much stuff going on. Everyone's just like getting on with their own thing. No one cares if a man's downing a tin of mushroom soup.
When I watched it, I was just like, you know, when you're kind of watching something, you're kind of gripped by it, but you're like, I feel like I want to be sick.
It wasn't too bad actually. The tomato one was okay. When I went back and did the mushroom one, that was like there's chunks and stuff in that. That was rough. Yeah.
I mean, if you could find a working microwave in one of the electrical aisles, that would be quite funny. Go and get a bowl off a shelf and a spoon.
Yeah, I thought about how to escalate it, but I do also frequent the supermarket quite a bit, so I don't want to get barred for any reason.
Oh dear. Anyway, that gives kind of an insight into the kind of comedic mind we're dealing with everybody. So generally, how are things going? Because you seem to be gigging quite a bit at the moment.
I've been trying to, yeah. Been gigging quite a bit. Things are, I mean, it's comedy. You'll have great ones, you'll have bad ones. I tend to find, on reflection, the good gigs are never as good as I think they are, and the bad gigs are never quite as bad as I think they are. They're always sort of somewhere in the middle. But yeah, it's been okay. It's been fine. Like trying out some new stuff at the moment, which is going down relatively well, I think, cool. Which is always nice. You know what it's like. It's and I'm sure everyone, if you do comedy, is listening, knows it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I just got to keep that in mind. Yeah.
It's a marathon without an actual finish line as well.
Yeah, that is painfully true. It's very, very rare to sort of hit a point, I think, in this where you can sort of sit back and go, okay, nice. Like, I'm really happy with that.
Yeah. There's
not a lot of opportunity to get that. Obviously, the progression is, everyone progresses differently at different rates. And like, I don't know if you found this, but it's as many, even though there's loads of people that do stand up and loads of people are on the circuit, it's still a really small cross section of people that actually do it. And it doesn't ever actually feel that far away. Sort of the people that are doing well or the people that are progressing far, you will bump into them at open mics or at gigs. It does feel relatively meritocratic, which is, I think, awesome.
So what is your history? How did you get into it and when did it all start?
From about the age of 12, it's all I've wanted to do. And I've always had that in my mind. And I've basically planned the last however many years around getting to a position where I can start doing comedy. So like I always knew I wanted to go to university. I went to go do history because you have to do a lot of writing. And I was like, that's going to force me to get better at writing and better at sort of using words. He says very uneloquently. And I always knew how precarious comedy was as a career choice. So I was like, I want to make sure I actually have something to fall back on, that I actually have a career of some sort. And I also knew that London's the place to be. I knew if I wanted to get into this, I wanted to be in London because this is where all the big clubs are. This is where most people get started. So I basically made sure to get some form of job. Pandemic hit, which meant I couldn't move down to London as quickly as I wanted to. So I stuck at home for a few years, then moved down. And once I'd sort of settled, that was it, sort of start of start of last year, I was like, right, here we go. I'd sort of been around comedy a little bit. Like there was a society when I was at uni that I knocked around a bit and sort of watched and that. And I'd written some stuff, but yeah, sort of what are we now, 2024? So January 2023 was when I sort of really kicked things off. I'd say I never looked back, but I did, because, by the summer I had completely lost all hope and took I think it was like 7 months off from doing it, which was interesting.
So what kind of pushed you down that route? Why did you just go, no, this doesn't feel like it's for me?
I think it was, everyone's got other things going on in their life, right, which also impacts this. But it was a lot. I don't want to say it was a lot harder than I was expecting, but I didn't think I had the right mind frame going into it. I sort of didn't really know where I was going. There were some nights I was showing up towards the end and I was coming up and doing material that I'd not even properly written or tried to practice. And I was a bit all over the shop, and I was like, right, I need to step back and just reevaluate what I actually want out of this and where I want to go. And if I do want to take it seriously, then I need to be in the right frame of mind for it, because it's not an easy thing to do. Isn't comedy. And especially if you're going through it a bit, to have to force yourself to get up every night and be like, let's go, ha ha ha. Yeah. It can be tough. And I'd had a few sort of gigs that hadn't gone quite as I'd expected towards the end. And so I just completely disconnected. Like that 7 months, I wasn't writing, I wasn't watching comedy. I couldn't bring myself to. Like I love going to Backyard and Angel. I go to them all the time. Like, was not going to them when I was stopped. Like I couldn't even bring myself to like watch stand up on telly or anything. Like I didn't go on my Instagram for that entire time. Like completely ignored it, because it was like a shame like I had in me. I was like, oh, well, you can't engage with this because you've bailed out. You've run away. And then started up again in January. I went and did an open mic in Leeds, which was an open mic, as in anyone could be on. I was the only comic. Everyone else was a musician. I was speaking to the MC and I was like, how long do I have? And they were like, well, we normally say 3 songs or 15 minutes, whichever shorter. So I was like, okay, I'll just go till I run out of steam. Then she was like, yeah, it's fine. So I think I did like 8 minutes. There was a very drunk woman at the back heckling the entire time, but it was just, I'd missed it so much. I'd missed the adrenaline rush. Like, I checked my heart rate on the watch afterwards. I think I'd hit like 150, 160 or something. And it was just like, this is, why did I ever even stop? Let's get going again. But
what made you go, I'm going to give it a go again?
I think because it'd been in my mind's eye since I was like 12. I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. Like, I know I speak to a lot of people on the circuit and they go like, oh, what made you get, like, what makes you want to do comedy? Like, why would you want to do this to yourself? And I'm like, why wouldn't you? That's like, it's crazy to me to do this as just kind of like, it's something I dip my toes into. Like, it's a bit of a hobby, like, because it's so all encompassing, and the rewards when it goes well are just, I've always said, if you could bottle up the essence of a good gig and sell it as a drug, you'd be a billionaire. We'd all be hooked on it. It's an unreal feeling to go out and know you smashed it and make a room full of people laugh. Like, I don't think there's anything like it. I knew I'd never be in a better position than I am now to properly give it a go. Like, I'm in London, I've got a stable job, like, I've not got pets or kids or anything. I live relatively centrally. It's really easy for me to get to gigs. Yeah. Like, if I can't do it now, I'm probably not ever going to. I'm quite a lazy person deep down, so I know, I know if I get any sort of distractions in my life before properly bedding into this, I'll probably not be able to keep going. So
when we talk about comedy being all encompassing, I think it's kind of hard to get across to other people just how much it is all encompassing. They just see it as you go, you've made up a couple of jokes and you go and stand on stage and tell some jokes. And until you've done it and you've done it well and you've come off that stage and people have laughed, that adrenaline rush is basically a drug. The hit from when comedy goes well and you come off the stage and you know you've done well and you walk up to the other comics at the back of the room or whatever, and there's fist pumps and well dones and all that. You're just like, I've done it. Yeah. I've cracked it. Where's Netflix? Where are they? Come on. This is the moment. But you don't get that little bit after. And then you then end up chasing that again. and you chase it again and again and again. Did you ever do a course, or did you just go straight into it?
So I did when I restarted up. That was one of the things that got me going. Was I signed up for Logan Murray's course?
Yeah,
because I was like, I want to force myself to, like, that's kind of like do or die. Like, I'd saved up for it. I was like, right, let's do this. This will hopefully help try and tease something out of me. And to be honest, the biggest thing it gave me was it just gave me the confidence again to be like, no, you are funny. You can do this. Like that was the main thing for me.
Because I always class the showcase, if you've done a course, the showcase is the gateway drug. That's the thing that shows you what this can be like. But there's a lot of people, including myself, that went and did a course, but didn't plan to do anything after. It was just for the experience. But you get that hit and you're like, I want that again. And at that point, because the showcase is friendly and everybody's there to support you and everybody laughs, etc., you go, that's what it's going to be like every week.
My showcase is quite odd. I'd come off the back of a stag do in Wales. So I was a bit, I wasn't necessarily firing on all cylinders. And I'd also already done, I don't know, 20, 30 gigs probably by that time. Yeah. So I'd had that hook. But it's addictive. Like I was trying to figure it out for this to know how many I've done. I think I'm coming up to around 100 gigs. And like all drugs, not that I take them, but diminishing returns. you keep going and trying to find that bigger hit. It's one of the reasons why I quite like gong shows, just because of the jeopardy involved in them. Yeah. There's just an extra layer of, because if you're going to do an open mic and you've got a 5 or a 7 or a 10 or whatever, at least you know you've got that time.
Yep.
If it maybe starts a bit slow or there's a dip in the middle or whatever, you can go, oh, it's fine. They can't get rid of me unless I do something genuinely horrendous. They're not going to get me off stage.
Yeah.
Whereas gong show, you've really got to, the way I describe it to people is you just got to punch them in the throat comedically. Like you've just got to get at them, and that like added layer of jeopardy again. That I find that's a real rush.
Yeah, it's certainly an experience. It's not for everybody, but it's one of those is that if you can nail it, as much as people love them and hate them, there's an in-between part where those that hate them probably because they've never got through them, and those that love them are because they're the ones that got through them. And I'm still on the hate side at the moment, but I was so close to loving it at one point, and then it was just like, no, that's been taken away from you. You realise that gong shows you are the jester in the room, and you are being judged by people. People can just look at you and go, I don't like you, and that's it. They've lost interest. I think you need to have that kind of thick skin to be able to deal with that as well. I think we're all kind of softies at heart. Criticism and a rejection of something you've been working on that you know is funny, but maybe you've just not delivered it correctly or something, and somebody else, it's not their thing, and you're just like, it's tough. I mean, it's even tough in an open mic sometimes when you've worked on something, and you saw me at an open mic a few weeks ago, and it felt like it went absolutely terribly. I just ended up being on stage just yabbiting on about crap and bringing stuff back up from the old archives. And I'd lost everybody well before that. And I'm just like, they've just not got the first bit. They're not going to like the last bit. Maybe I can chuck this in to save something. And just lost interest. I should have just got at one point and gone, look, it didn't go well tonight. See you later. I'm going to sit at the back of the room. Bye-bye. Except it doesn't work.
I find those as much as I hate in the moment, those gigs are the ones that you learn the most from, I find. If everything went hunky-dory all the time, it's you learn from where it goes wrong, right? And that's one thing I always try and focus on when I leave a gig. I told myself I'd write it down, but I never did. But I always sit down when I'm getting the tube back or whatever, and I watch my set back and I go, right, what do I take away from this? Like, what have I learned? What is it? Most of the time it's make sure you learn your bloody material. But it's, I think it's important to be reflective. Because I've had some absolute stinkers as well. And it is when you're up there and you can sense it. You can sense the energy slipping out of them.
Yep.
And it's like, you want to just scream and be like, no, I still promise I'm funny, please.
Yeah.
And it's learning how to win them back over. And it's something I'm still trying to get my head around. Like, it's still such early days, and I'm still trying to figure out when you can see them going, how to get them back.
Yeah, it's when you see the person at the front or whatever, and they cross their arms, and you're like, oh no, that's it. That one's gone. Don't look at them again. Don't. But then they're the one person you can't help but focus on, because you're like, have they opened up a little bit? And no, it's still the arms across. There's still the arms across. Or like I said to you, another gig we did recently where there was a guy in the second row who's just giving me daggers. Yeah. And I'm just like, what the hell have I done? I've literally just introduced myself, and he's looked at me and gone, I don't like you. You're like, okay, great. This is going to be a fun gig. And it's like, again, no, I'm not going to look at you. I'm not going to look at you. But the ironic thing was, it was like a friend of an act. And it
Really?
was really, really felt, I was super paranoid about what was going on. I'm just like, this isn't good. I mean, me saying, hi, my name's Mark with a C, just went, don't like you. See you later. Who spells your name like that? I was like, well, it's not my fault.
It's slightly indicative of bringers as well. It's sometimes you do get bringers who are, it's a body in the seat, but it is literally just a body in the seat.
Yeah,
like,
soulless.
It's completely like they've come because their mate needed someone desperately. They've been roped in and they will just sort of sit there for the night. They won't go on the phone, but like they might as well be.
I was trying to look at this guy because when I sat down, I was probably a row or 2 rows behind him. I'm just looking at the back of his head for most of it, saying, is there any movement? It's just like, no. It's like, is this guy real? Is this a statue or something? No emotion whatsoever.
It's funny you say about focusing on the one person, because I've heard like even pro comics and stuff talk on podcasts about it, and they'll be doing like massive theatres and that, and people be roaring, and they're like, and they'll just see one person, just one person, and that's all they can focus on. And it's crazy because obviously, like a sane human would be like, no, I like everyone's loving this, it's fine. But you do when you see someone who is so disengaged with your material, it just like it plays. You want to go up to it. It's like I did a gig last night, and there was a guy. He wasn't like laughing a lot. He was not laughing that much at me. But he kept staring at my shoes. He just wouldn't stop staring at my shoes. And like they're Crocs, they're awful, I know it. But I was dying to just go up to him and be like, why? Like, what has this got to do with anything? Can you just focus on what I'm saying like everyone else is? Yeah. Why are you just being... Anyway, that's... Yeah. This is weird.
So what do you reckon so far then your best and worst moments have been on stage?
I'll go worst to best. I'd say probably one of my worst was, and this was one of the things that contributed to me stopping, was I did Ding Dong Gong Show last year, probably around summertime. I was doing like my first set material still. It was all like Jesus stuff. A lot of comics talk about Jesus because I think it's an easy thing to talk about. It's easy to make fun of it. And I was in the hat. I got pulled up second. The crowd was like half empty. It wasn't like even the MC was like struggling to get anything out of them. There was some hammered woman in the front row who was just, when they're not even heckling, they're just like talking or like trying to respond to things. Like, it's like, if you'd heckled me, I could do something with that, but you're just talking as if you're in the pub. Like, and I don't know how many gigs in I was still probably like around 20-30, and I just went like a million miles an hour. My delivery absolutely stunk. Like I was like, retrospectively, they did right to gun me off. I was terrible, but then obviously you got to stand there and listen to the feedback from the 3 judges and that.
Oh yes, that's that one, isn't it?
Yeah, and obviously they just rinsed me. I got told I looked like a scared lost child, and it was. I got told to never wear shorts on stage, which was horrible because it was boiling hot. And I remember leaving that gig, and I just went and like because it was back when it was in Vauxhall. There's a park just across the road, and I remember I went into it and just laid down on the floor, just like and you've just not even got any fight in you left. I was just laying there, just like, God, like this is brutal. This is properly brutal. I think I lasted a minute and a half, something like that. So I think the grace period there's a minute. Again, that was one of those ones where the more I was doing, you could just see it seeping out of them. And that was hell. And that was one thing I learned from that, actually, because my opening was a bit weak and punny, but it got into better material. And so up there, I was like, well, if I just get through this stuff, they'll love the good stuff. It should all be good. You've got 5 minutes. There's no time. Like, you should not have any fat on a 5, right? There shouldn't be any guff. It should all be like bam, bam, bam. So that was, again, like I try and take something from all of them, but that was a real low moment for me. Coming out of that gig, that was horrible. That was absolutely rancid. And then best moments, probably there's 2 that spring to mind, which was that around that same time of the Ding Dong Show last year, I'd signed up to So You Think You're Funny, and the heat was at Backyard. I go to Backyard loads to go watch comedy, and I'd said to myself, like, I'd set a goal to myself where I was like, I want to eventually do a set at Backyard. I kind of cheesed my way in because obviously the heats are all over. But I went, smashed it. Like I was really happy with my performance and how it went. I didn't get 3 people from the night got through. I didn't, but right. I got like 7 offers and stuff off the back of that and stuff.
Okay.
And got some, not at backyard, still emailing Dave to this day.
Yep.
But that was real elation to be in a proper club. Like it's the first time I'd been in a proper club, like done an amazing gig. Like that was one of those bottle it up and sell it moments. That was incredible. And then the other one that I sort of put in the same category was when I first passed up the creek, beat the blackout. That was earlier on this year, sort of springtime, especially coming off the back of last year when I had this like thing in my head about gong shows. Like I was like, oh God, they're brutal. I'm going to die. And I remember just being like, just get up there, just do your thing. If you get gonged off, whatever. And that passing that was like, again, that was just like huge. That I genuinely passing it for the first time was a better buzz than winning it for me. That was like that really? First pass. Yeah, honestly, 100%. That first pass was like, it was like a stamp of approval. Like I said, which you don't really get much in comedy. You don't really get much of a chance to go, oh, I've done a good thing.
Yes.
Because you go make a room full of people laugh and it's great. And everyone's like, nice, well done, good job. And then you leave and you go, I don't really have anything to show for it though, other than my 5 minutes of recording material or whatever. Yeah. It's, that first one was absolutely amazing. I did a new bit as well when they always say not to do new material, but I did a new joke at the end, which was the start of me starting to talk about like me and my girlfriend, and it got a round of applause. Nice. And that carried me off, and I was like, this is like, that was absolutely beautiful. Like, yeah, I won't ever forget that.
No, it's interesting when you talk about it's not necessarily the winning part, it's just the getting through part I guess it's the first time you've got through, and the whole gongs are, I can imagine there's a lot of people that have come out of a gong show and gone, that's it, I'm done. Yeah. I was nearly that. So I can completely sympathize with that feeling. If you can disassociate yourself as being at a gong show and go, I'm being given 2 minutes at least on a famous comedy club in front of 200 odd people, and everything after that is a bonus. If you can do that, I think you're in the right mindset for it. It's tough. Yeah. There is an inherent kind of competitive nature, isn't there, in the gong shows? Whether people realize it or not is they'll watch somebody and go, oh, they got through. If they got through, I know I'm better than them. And then you go on and you go, oh, balls. But you just understand you are the jester that night. You are one of 15, 20 jesters and stuff like that. And
the one piece of advice I always say to people as well is it's luck. It is genuinely luck. Yeah. It's 3 random people in the crowd that you've got to make sure stay on side. Like and it can, you can't decide who those people are. You can't, they might not like absurdist stuff, and you're an absurdist comic, right? Yeah. And it is literally just luck. And like, they'll shuffle the cards around sometimes and that, and like, they might have, because too many people might be getting through or not enough. And so I would say to anyone who wants to do them, don't let one bad experience stop you. Cause I mean, like when I went and won it, literally the start of the month, they gonged me off. Yeah. As soon as 2 minutes hit. And I was like, no, screw this. I know it's funny. Yeah. I know they'll like it. I've tailored this material for gong shows. Like I'd made it close to the bone. I'd made it punchier. I was like, no, I'm coming back. I'm not having this. And yeah, don't like, at the end of the day, people are idiots. What do people know? Like, who are they to judge you? Like, genuinely, it's just some random people getting drunk in a comedy club. Like, who the hell are they to judge your art? It's not easy, but you've got to have a thick skin with this because, people, loads of people talk about it, but like at the end of the day, comedy is an art and there's loads of different ways of doing it. People love music, right? You wouldn't go as a country fan to a metal gig and then sit there and be like, oh, this is terrible. They're all awful musicians. I hate this. I'm leaving. Because you don't like metal music because you're a country fan. Yeah. And that's, people know inherently what they find funny because it's such a natural reaction to laugh. Mm-hmm. You don't think about it. But people don't tend to think about it as like, well, I love wordplay, or, oh, I really like when people are absurd, or I like character stuff, or I like really dry deadpan stuff. People tend to just be like, well, it's funny or it's not. Yeah. And it's like, no, it's funny to you because it's subjective, because it's art and all art is fundamentally subjective.
Yeah.
It's just the difference with comedy compared to anything else is you have to directly receive the feedback, right? It's very rare that, say, you're a painter and you sit in the gallery and have to listen to everyone walk around and murmur like, this is a bit naff, isn't it? Like, it's not like...
And I guess the other thing is that if you go to a concert, for example, you know who you're going to see.
Yeah.
You know what they're going to sing. You know what they're going to play. If you walk into a comedy club, there's a very good chance you won't know every act on that bill, even if it's not an open mic, even if it's like a pro level kind of thing. And I find it interesting when we talk about, you get audience members that get it and audience members that don't get it. And I've been there before where I used to do a bit about, questions that couples would ask each other. And if there's a couple in the front row and you see like one of them tap the other one on the leg, you kind of go, I've got you. Yeah. You're going to enjoy this bit. But then if you've got some random single guy sitting there, it's like, I don't really give a shit about what couples are. You know, like, I've not got you. You kind of, if you see that and you get that, you go, oh yeah, I've got this. This is going to go well. Because I've got people that are wanting to listen and want to relate and want to understand.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think that's the thing that is. I think that's it's one of the things I find hard about open mic comedy is sometimes you might be in a room of 6-7 people.
Yep.
So the percentage numbers of them all loving what it is that you're doing is it's shrunk down massively. And I mean, obviously, the answer to that is get good. But like there are some times where you just don't click. It just doesn't happen. You can't do anything about that. And because like the bigger the crowd, particularly those like percentage jokes where you need 5-10% of people to get it in order to get everyone else laughing. Those are hard when you've got 6-7 people in a room sometimes. Because the times where everyone's on board, it's like unreal. But yeah, there's sometimes where you'll throw one out and you're like, okay, no one knows this thing about, I don't know, Pokemon or whatever.
I see exactly what you're saying. It's that if you can getting 10% of a crowd of 10 to laugh, it's so much harder than 10% of a crowd of 200 to laugh. And that even though you're only getting 10%, 20 people's laughter is just, it's good.
People silently laugh. I don't know if you've seen this. The amount of times I've either been at the back watching or if like I've watched the recording back and stuff, or I've been on stage and you can see people, they're like, the shoulders are going, they're up and down. And I'm like, please just open your mouth. Please just produce any sound whatsoever for me. Like it's, I think particularly with smaller rooms, I've heard some people say who've done comedy for a lot longer it's slightly a bit of a post-pandemic thing where people are used to just sort of been at home.
Yes. And
just sort of looking through stuff and that. If I could project any message to the nation, it's please lol. Like please laugh out loud. Please.
Definitely.
that's we feed on that. That is our lifeblood.
So going back to you being like you're saying you wanted to do this like from the age of 12, I think you said.
Yeah.
Can you remember the first joke you ever wrote?
I'm not sure about the first joke. I was always trying to like joke and mess around when I was younger. I used to do like accents and like impressions of people loads. I explicitly remember like going out for dinner with my family and like doing impressions of like Michael McIntyre at the dinner table and stuff like that. Like I genuinely, I've just always loved trying to make people laugh. I think like in terms of first joke, it was definitely one of the first ones I wrote and I always used to open with it, which is, and I've stopped using it now, but was, my name's Kristian with a K. That's the result of a religious, well-meaning, but fundamentally dyslexic mother. She never had too much of an impact on my upbringing though. I've never read the Bible. That's just silly, but I'm trying to move away from like wordplay and puns because I feel like people don't react as well when I do them on stage. I think it kind of makes me seem a bit more rehearsed and a bit more sort of, oh, he's written that, rather than being conversational. I'm basically really trying to figure out what my persona is. And it's hard. I think one thing I've noticed is all the people who come flying out the gates early on, or all the people that do very well early on, I'm not saying the material's bad at all. A lot of them have good material, but they've got their persona nailed.
Yes.
You know exactly who they are when they get up. You know exactly what kind of thing you're expecting from them.
Yeah.
And that is, like, at least for me, that's the thing I find the hardest, is trying to actually, like, nail that down. Because I can write loads of different, I can write dark stuff, I can write edgy stuff, I can write absurdist, silly, I can write wordplay, puns. Like, it doesn't, I find lots of different things funny. And I'm really trying to hone who I am at the moment. Yeah, I mean, I think last time we saw each other, I just read Adam Bloom's book and was just having a complete and utter meltdown. I stunk that night. That night and the night afterwards, I was an absolute shell. Like, I performed real badly because I realized I was like, oh, I'm a hack.
I don't think you performed badly at all. I honestly don't think you did. I thought you did quite well. It was a difficult room. I think there was nobody in that room that really got massive, full on, fall around the floor kind of belly laughs. There was none of that. But I thought you did really well, actually. You still missed out my favorite joke. I keep coming back to that one, but I don't. You shouldn't be nervous about that. We'll come back. We might come back to that later, just to keep people listening. Yeah. But I still think it's a work of absolute art and genius. The whole persona thing is very difficult because there's usually that thing where you want to be somebody who you're not, and you sometimes feel like if you're trying to be somebody who you're not being authentic. And if you're not being authentic, my immediate thought is somebody's going to see straight through that.
Yes, 100%. I think it's talking about, like, being seen through. Like, I don't know if you've had friends or family come to gigs, and I don't know how you've performed, but I have had my worst gigs in front of friends and family. There's been times when my girlfriend's been there, or there's a friend who comes and watches me a fair bit. And those, for some reason, are the gigs where I'll slip up or I'll forget something. Because I think it's because I don't perform particularly different to who I am off stage. The way I describe it is, at the moment, I just sort of, it's me, but extended. That's what I try and do. Yeah. But, like, it's like, there's someone in the crowd who just fundamentally knows you so well. It's like they see through you. Yeah. And that is a train that will unravel when you're up there if you start going down that route. Yeah. When you get people coming to see you for the first time, they're immediately like, I didn't know you could do that. You're immediately thinking, they think I'm somebody else to the person that they know. And I completely get it when you see, probably one of my most recent worst ones, that sounds really bad, wife was there and the room was just awful. There was just nothing in the room at all. I came off that thing. This is like the thing that you mentioned with, whenever you think you've done well, you've never done as well as you think you've done. Whenever you think you've done badly, you've never done as badly as you think you've done. Yeah. And I came off thinking that was absolutely woeful. But I recorded it, and I tend not to watch back the ones that I think are really bad because I just can't put myself through it. Even though that's the one I should be watching. And I watched it back and I noticed that every single punchline, I had a reaction. It just wasn't big and I just didn't hear it in the room. Yeah. And the wife sat there and she's just like, all I can hear is people around me talking whilst you're doing your stuff. And everything was distracting. And because I didn't feel like I was getting anything on stage. I was like, you could kind of see the life drain out of me as every minute ticked by. Yeah. But then I look back at it and I go, but I got a reaction to pretty much every joke I expected. And like I say, it wasn't a big reaction. But when I'm up on stage and things aren't going well, I'm like, she's come along to see me for the first time in ages. I feel like I'm letting her down because it's just not going well. And then you're subconsciously like, okay, it's all right, fine. If I'm there on my own and I mess up, that's on me, done. But I've not collared somebody else to come along. I've not taken time out of their day. And it's an added pressure that's, I don't know, I haven't quite got over yet. No, it is. It's definitely an added pressure. Because you want to do well for them. I would say watch back your videos. Like I religiously watch all of them. Because one thing I will say as well is new material versus old material. If you're doing old material and it gets a laugh, I don't know about you, but I'm kind of like, well, I know it does. I know it's funny. So, or like I've done it before and it's done better. So like I've become very dismissive of it. There's something about doing something new because it's the jeopardy's back. It's that panic of like, God, is it funny? And then it is whereas if it's a joke you've done 20 times or whatever, you're like, yeah, no, yeah, of course. Well, yeah, of course they laughed at that. That doesn't count.
Yeah.
It's the other stuff that they like, I'm worried about now. That's one thing I'm dealing with, because I am trying to build up more. Like I'm trying to churn through stuff more, because the way I see it is like still such early days.
Yeah.
I will look back in 5 years and be like, this is all crap. Like, so as long as I'm getting through new stuff and not just like dismissing it, but like tidying it up properly and getting it to a decent place, and then going and trying to do some new stuff. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm staying as productive as I can be. Like, I feel so sorry for Tom Dell. That poor man has heard so many new jokes from me in a basement. Like, he's had to listen to so much when I'm upstairs. But I think it's important to try and keep evolving and try and keep getting new stuff out, because it's everyone else is moving, and it's not a competition, but like at the end of the day, it is just one person. It's just you. You're like, you've got no bandmates or teammates to fall back on. There's no one else for it. Yeah. For how you do and progress. And that's one thing I think my worst gigs are the ones where whether if it's gone well or not, if I come off stage and I'm not happy with how I've performed, those are the worst ones for me now. Yeah. Like I'm getting past the, did it land, did it not stage? And I'm like, right, well, how was I? If I can walk off that stage and go, well, I knew I gave it 100%. I knew I gave everything I could. I did all my little, like, I delivered it right. All the movements were right. The vocal intonations were there. If I did that and it still didn't land, well, then I can't physically have done any more. Yes. There's nothing I could have done. Yeah. Whereas when I come off, and even if it's gone okay, and I'm like, but I fluffed that line or I slightly missed that, those are the gigs that anger me now. Because I'm like, right, I need to go away and I need to practice more, because it's not good enough. Like, it needs to be like bam, bam, bam. Yeah.
It's a never learning circle. It's like we said, it's a marathon that has no finish line, and it's a pen that never runs out of ink.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I hope it doesn't.
Hey, sorry for the interruption. Duncan Hart here from episode 37. If you're enjoying this podcast, give it a like, a 5-star rating, and a follow on whatever app you're using right now. Mark will be forever grateful. Now, back to this cracking episode.
So, with joke writing, then you say you can write all different kinds of jokes. How do you go about doing it? Is it a case of something in the street sparks something somebody says, or are you one of those that goes, right, I'm going to spend the next hour writing stuff?
Dear God, no, to the latter. And I have tried. It's something over the last week or two. There's this story that I've been trying to pull together and make and write. And I've been literally sat at a laptop, like typing it out, trying to sort of rearrange it and play around with it. And it's so unnatural to me. I can't do it. I'm badly dyslexic and dyspraxic. So like, I already struggle with just like writing stuff. Yeah. And I find that hard. So for me, it tends to be the process of like joke writing for me comes from a moment of inspiration. Something will come to me. I'll be like, and I can semi not force it, but I can get into states where I'm like, right, I'm receptive to it. So like, it's like I might just take a long shower and just zone out. Like I love like showers in my safe space. Like I just sit in there like a hot shower, and I just completely go on like standby mode, and stuff will come to me. Or like, I love walking a lot. Like I don't exercise properly. I should do, but I don't. But walking's my thing. I try and walk at least like 10 kilometers a day kind of thing. Right. And I'll be out, tend not to use my headphones or music anymore. And I'll just be out, just letting my brain run, just thinking about things. Is something funny? Does something pop up? What have I seen? What's that in the park? And just seeing if anything funny comes to me, or like thinking of things in the past, like thinking of a memory, like, that was kind of silly. So what I do is I then write all that down on my phone. Like my notes app has just got reams and reams and reams of, some of it is fully fleshed out. Some of it is like premises. Some of it's literally just a word to help me remember. Yeah. And then what I do is like the sort of the editing phase really is at home. I will just deliver it as if I'm on stage. I will just walk around my room with my toothbrush and be like, right, what would I do? How would I say this? How would I try and word it? What is the funny bit? And then just keep doing that and keep working through it. And that's where like toppers and extra little things come to me. Cause it's kind of, you know that feeling where you're on stage and you think of a little extra thing and you say it and it lands and it is just like incredible. It feels amazing. I try and simulate that at home. I don't think the spontaneity comes from the fact you're doing it in front of a crowd. I think it comes from the fact that you're just saying something you've said before. So you know what you're saying and your brain goes in a different direction.
Yep.
So that's what I try and stimulate that at home. Like, so just kind of walking around. And then when I've got something and I'm happy with it, I then try and piece it together into a set. I used to really try early on to try and make everything link and flow really well. But then I was like, I need to worry more about actually making people laugh. So I've been less up on trying to make everything sort of cohesive as much, but I'm trying more so again. And that's really what I do. I have a habit of using what I call like placeholder jokes.
Yeah.
I've done a joke. I'm doing a joke at the moment at the opening, and there's a couple of lines in there that I know aren't that funny, but it fits the rhythm. And so I know I need to think of something. I know I need to think of some funnier little lines to go in there.
Yeah.
I just think about that a lot when I have free time. I just sort of walk around and I'm like, what are funny hobbies for adults? Like, what is a normal adult hobby? Like, because that's what I need to try and think of. And I've realized where that came from. And that is, I used to, as a kid, read Captain Underpants novels, right? And they used to do these ones where it'd be like a book with loads of just like things to do in it, like little puzzles or little games and stuff. And they used to do this thing where they'd have full paragraphs and sentences, and they would blank out bits and be like, make your own joke, basically fill it in with the funny thing. So like, what is a funny name for a dog or something?
Yeah.
That's how I view a lot of my new material. I'm like, right, I'll do it. And I'm like, okay, it works. Like the premise works. The rhythm is fine. I now need to find those killer little words that actually make it a great joke, rather than just being, it's something that works. Like, that's. I'm with you. Like I'm just looking at now on the side of my screen is I've got my notes app here, and if I go through it, it's so random. Yeah. But there's some bits in there that you go. It's like if I pick out a couple, feral versus posh kids. There's something in that. I don't know what it is. I don't know if you've ever seen this thing in people that buy trainers, like Nike's app and Adidas app before they're released. You go on there, you buy the trainer, but you're basically buying the opportunity to buy the trainer. You're not guaranteed it. It's a raffle, but you're paying, you kind of like, they're holding your money to the point of going until you're selected. And then if you're not, you get your money back. But it's a really weird concept, because if you do that, if you do that in the street, you're like, no, if I'm giving you money, I want something for it. I'm not going to give you money and then you go 20 minutes later, go, no, here's your money back. That doesn't work. Right. But it's like trying to work out. Supermarket doing that, like,
where does that fit in? I've got a really nice bit. I'm not going to say it out loud, but I want to do it, and I've done it once, and it absolutely bombed and failed. But I really think there's something in it, and I've never gone back to it, and I should have given it another go. I've got like random quotes, and what I try to do is this: I've got a random quote, and then try to pick, right, where was I when that happened? What was going on? And who was I with? Who said it? And can I make something out of that? Because I've written it down for a reason, because it was funny. I need to explore into a set, and I've got an idea, and I write the set and I give it a few times, and I stop trying to polish it and get it better. I find myself concentrating too much on that rather than trying to pull other stuff in and exploring other stuff. I find that quite difficult. I almost get to the point where if I'm bored of the material, then I'll move to something else rather than refine, because I'm still not in that place. Like you say, where the mouth can keep going blah, 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 and it just says the words, and your brain's going, the next bit is this. Yeah. And you're like having that disassociation of the two things. You then don't sound scripted as such, because you're preparing for the next bit, and you're not really thinking about what's going on. And you've done it so many times because you know it. You can put in the little bits in there that don't make it sound like, and I said this, and I said that, and then he did this, and he did that. And it's all of those kind of things.
Something I've been trying to deal with is I have this like process of where when I do a new joke, it's new or whatever, so it's like I'm a bit like wobbly with it, trying to remember it. Then I sort of get to a sweet spot where like it's going well, and like I'm delivering it really nice and fluidly, and like really present in the room when I'm delivering it. And then I end up to a point where I know it really well. I know the rhythm, and I become unconscious when I'm doing it. And it can seem a bit too delivered and a bit too da 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 da. And it's something I'm really trying to work on, is making sure that I'm like just present in the room when I'm delivering these jokes now. I speak to my girlfriend a lot about it, and I say, like, it's like delivery mode versus like being present. I don't want to be just in delivery mode. I don't just want to be like, I'm going to tell a joke. And here's another joke. And then coming off and be like, oh, well, it worked before. And it's like, yeah, it worked that time because it was conversational. Whereas this time you're trying to recreate that same conversational flow that isn't in this room. You need to be slightly more reactive. And it's something I'm really sort of trying to break through at the moment.
That's where I come across the stall on stage.
Yes. Yeah. It's a great idea.
It brings me lower down into the room, and then I relax. And like you see me do the same set with a stall and without a stall. Yeah. And the one with a stall was 100 times better.
Yeah, 100%. You said so much more relaxed, so much more conversational. Yeah.
It's finding all those little tricks and things that work for yourself, because when you look at comedians, there's a few different styles. There's the people that come on and they're just like all over the place, as in they're moving from left to right, up and down. And they're like Deepak Patel, for example, doesn't stop moving.
Yeah.
You then put Mark Rivlin, who just stands there. He doesn't even touch the microphone.
Yeah.
And then you get a few people like, I think James Townsend, he'll pace around like a very small circle on the stage. He doesn't go too far wide. And I don't know if any of this is conscious or if it's all in the subconscious. But I love to be able to be that person that walks up and just has the microphone and just, here we go. We're going to have a chat.
Yeah. It's one thing I'm trying, in terms of trying to figure out who I am on stage. I was very energetic when I started.
Yeah.
I would move a lot. And then I sort of slowly drifted to a place where I'm more sort of measured. I'm stood in the middle with the mic and that. And I'm trying to sort of shift back to being a little bit more energetic.
Yeah.
Because I tend to run up to the stage anyway, which is a subconscious thing. I didn't realize I did it, but I think it kind of fits. I'm trying to play on the fact that like, I look kind of young for my age. I'm like a little bit silly. And so I am trying to give a bit more energy. Because the other thing as well is I think it helps when if you pump energy into a room.
Yes.
Unless they are not very nice, you do tend to get it back. That people will kind of mirror, like if you're going up with the chair and you're relaxed and you're very languid, like they'll relax into that.
Yeah.
Whereas if you are like, I had to get to a habit where I sort of in the middle, sort of choking the mic out, not moving a lot, and it's like it's not an easy energy. Yeah. Sometimes that to work with.
I think it gives it gives off like a tension that's coming from yourself, but it kind of makes your material sound tense as well, because you're not, and we're relaxed into the room, or I'm feeling completely comfortable.
Yeah.
It's not even relaxed. It's just being comfortable, isn't it? Actually, at the end of the day on that stage, it's like if you walk on the stage and the clapping stopped before you got to the stand. I found the best thing to do is not turn around and face the audience, is put your hand up in the air as if to say, come on, keep going, keep going, keep going. And you'll soon realize in that 2 or 3 seconds, if they start rampantly clapping again, they're up for this.
Yeah.
And you've won them over before doing a thing. I think that's a really good little technique. If you do that and you get nothing, the next 5 minutes are going to be bumpy. It's like your material's good.
Yeah. It's like if you get up and you're like, hey guys, how are we doing? And they're like, yeah. And you're like, no, come on, you can get, like, yeah, I'm not having that. Like, you can give me more. Come on, guys. And then if they then don't, it's like you said, it's like, right, okay, we're like, buckle up. This is going to be fun.
I've always wanted to do the, whenever a comedian comes on and they say, hi, how's everyone doing? All right. So it's kind of a throwaway line to kind of get people involved. I've always fancied going on, if I can ever get on near the end, I always seem to be in the first half and early, is if I go on near the end, go on. So who's getting bored of being asked how they're doing? Yay! And you're like, yes, I've won you over. Nice, without doing a thing. Giving away some secrets that I want to do at some point. But
as you say, people at home furiously taking notes.
Don't take notes from me. I'm nearly 2 years in and I'm still getting nowhere.
Me neither. I do not know anything. So one thing I wanted to speak about was originality, which I was reading about in this book. One of the things that jumped out to me was in Adam Bloom's book. He says like one of the things about originality is could anyone else have said it, right? Yeah. Like could anyone else have said the joke that you're going to tell? And so I'd written a joke probably like 3 weeks ago, maybe a little slightly longer, and it was based on you've seen me do it, and it's as a child I just genuinely, as a child, I used to lick radiators in the house, right? There was one radiator in the house. I used to lick it. I don't know, like it genuinely enjoyed doing that. And I was like, and when I was reading this passage in the book, I was like, amazing. I was like, I've written like that joke. No, like no one else, surely.
Yeah.
Like no one else, like who would even think of that? And then last week or the week before, I was watching the Welsh Heat of the BBC Comedy Awards. And the guy who wins his heat makes like some passing joking reference to like being like a bit of an idiot or whatever. And he's like, yeah, but I wasn't like sucking off radiators and stuff. And I genuinely paused the video and just laid down for like 5 minutes. I was like, I just laid on the floor. Like nothing is original. I don't think anything.
Yeah.
I genuinely do not think anything like nothing, everything I've tried to do or think of. I'm like, no one else will have thought of this, or no one else will have said this.
Yeah.
Someone's done it. In my old Jesus sets that I was doing, I used to have a bit about Jesus getting waterboarded in Guantanamo. And I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
And then like 2 months after doing it, I was watching like an old Harry Kunabolu special on Netflix. And he's got a whole thing about pitching a sketch to a network about Jesus getting waterboarded in Guantanamo. And I was just like, I cannot escape this.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah. Art exists within context, right? Nothing will work without the context within which it's been created. I think that's the problem with originality. It's very hard to do something that isn't building or is similar to other things, because otherwise would it work? I don't know. It's
happened to me, but I will wager that it's never happened to anybody else in quite the way it's happened to me. And it was the act before me.
Oh no.
Yeah. I was doing a gig at Big Nose in Soho, and the act before me went on and started off by doing, has anybody been told they look like somebody famous?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And I looked at my mate who was my bringer, and he just went, okay. And then he started doing a bit about, I used to do a whole section called where women ask what they're thinking and the silly responses we give.
Yes. Yeah.
And he did the same thing.
No.
Pretty much. It was along the same lines about, you ask us for inspiration and stuff, but there's really nothing behind the eyes as such. And my mate's looking at me going, fuck, what are you going to do? And I'm like, it's a bit fucking late for me to change. I'm on next.
That's so rough.
But honestly, it worked really well, because when I went on stage, I had the T-shirt on. I went, oh, can you guess who I said I look like? And it kind of brought everybody in. And I then went on and said, before you think I've just been plagiarizing, you may have heard this before. And then did my bit with a slightly different twist on it. But it was on the same theme. And you're just like, fuck.
Yeah.
It was fun, but it got to a point. I then saw the guy again at a gig like 2 or 3 weeks later, and I'm like, please do the same bits, because they work really well together. But he didn't. Actually, no, he did the lookalike thing, but he said, Mark, don't reply. Pointing at me, and he explained why. But it was all a bit of fun. That moment of sitting there going, shit, not just. If you see a famous person that does something similar material to you, go, I'm going to have to drop that, because nobody's going to believe I've done my bit unless it's out there from in the past on Instagram. Then you can kind of get away with it. But when you're sat there and going, right, I've got 2 minutes before I'm actually getting on stage. I've got no other material.
I don't even know what I do. That's brutal.
Yeah.
That is.
But it was fine in the end. But it was that moment of panic. Was like, fuck.
Yeah.
Originality is really very difficult. But there are still so many things especially on the open mic circuit. Obviously, we frequent so much. You see some people's takes on things, and they're very different to what's out there, or they may be delivered in a particularly different way that fits the way they've said something compared to what a Jimmy Carr joke would have been like. You never know if there's been inspiration taken from it or what, but. There's only so many topics in the world, especially Absolutely. When you consider how closed the world is nowadays with the internet and everybody around it,
Yeah.
We couldn't have been doing this 20 or 30 years ago, just having this conversation.
No.
And you wouldn't be sharing ideas, and we probably wouldn't be able to have the ability to gig 5-6 days a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so much stuff, and it's sometimes it gets to a point now where you see people and you go, I really, really like that. Can I not so much copy it, but can I use something similar and work out what they've done that makes it different to me, and use some of the stuff they've got?
100%. I totally agree with that point. I find it incredibly stimulating going and watching like pro comics, or like going to Backyard or Angel or Top Secret. Like that all my neurons are firing when I'm watching that stuff, because it generates so many ideas, or it'll make me think of something in the past that I've totally forgotten about. Like that'll be funny. It's never necessarily directly linked or similar, but it just watching someone do what you want to do really well, just I think really just lights a fire, and just really makes you like reevaluate in a good way. Like really makes you go, right, I find it, like I said, really stimulating. I don't walk away going, oh God, I'm never going to be able to do this. I walk out like, that was sick. Right, what do I do now to get that?
I liken it a bit to like if you watch sports on TV, like individual sports. Like some people would say it's a sport, but more of a game, like snooker, darts and stuff like that. You watch them on telly, if you're into that, and you look at how they play and what they do and the intricacies behind it, and you think, oh, they're just picking up a piece of metal and throwing it at a board and that's it. But there is so much more to it. There's such a nuance to everything that anybody ever does, and you never understand it. And I think that kind of comes into comedy as well, because there's like the basic rule of three. You know, if you ask an audience member, they don't understand and they don't realize it exists. But if you tell them a joke and you tell them one punchline, two punchline, and you don't tell them the third, they know something's missing, but they don't know why or what it is. But we know, because it works in the flow and the stuff like that. So the intricacies behind everything is just, when people think going up telling a joke is this, it's like, no, it's not just, knock, knock, who's there? Banana, who? It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's everything else around it that makes such a difference. You can tell a bad joke well, but you can also tell a good joke badly.
100%. Yeah.
I'd rather tell the bad joke well and get the laugh than the other one, which was like, oh, that's a really clever joke, but it just wasn't funny. And it wasn't funny because you've not delivered it correctly.
Yeah.
You've not stood in the right place. You've not looked in the right area. You've not portrayed what you're trying to get across. And then that's when it comes down to persona again, is does the joke that you're telling fit the story you're trying to, the persona you're giving off?
Yes. 100%. 100%. I think you touched on there as well, talking about like, just like everything sports and comedy, and that the people who really, really are amazing are the people that know all the skills and the tricks and the intricacies, but make it just effortless. I think a lot of people still don't quite realize, and sorry if you don't know listening at home, but most comics aren't just getting up and saying random stuff. And it's material they've honed and spent years working on. I think a lot of the public still do think people just kind of get up and are like, I'm just going to be funny.
Yeah.
And that's the secret, is being able to do that, is being able to make people think that you are just you've just wandered up and you're just going to chat about your day. They don't know you've done it 100 times before.
Yeah.
And that's something it's one thing that really spun me in the book, was he talks about boom mic moments, which is like, boom mics in telly. Like if you see one in a shot, it breaks the illusion. And he says in the book that basically don't break the illusion to the audience. Don't let them know you're telling jokes. And that's, I realized like loads of stuff I was doing and the stuff I was getting quite big laughs on was like meta stuff, where I'd be like, oh, this joke here was blah, 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 blah. And like, oh, that was this. Or like, I used to use jokes that I used to intentionally bomb.
Yeah.
In order to follow up with a funny joke about the bad joke.
Right.
And I've stripped all of that out. It's about trying to make people forget and just think you're just chatting and just just being funny and making your way through. And again, like coming back to the persona thing, like I think that's why it's so important to try and have a strong voice, a strong persona to work around, because it gives you so much structure. Like I'm writing jokes now where I'm going, it's funny, but I can't do it. It doesn't fit me anymore. I can't use that. Like the baby face body of a man joke.
Yeah.
That sometimes kills, like sometimes lands really well, but doing that at the start of the set really puts some people off. Yes. And as much as I love it and as funny as it is, I'm having to drop it, I think, just because it doesn't fit the expectations and the persona and what I'm presenting.
So that brings actually onto a question is, what's your favorite joke, but it doesn't have to be your best joke?
It's a good question. I genuinely am not. I'm a big fan of the whole radiator eating out joke at the moment. When I first wrote that, I was genuine. I was really hungover, and I was just laughing for like 5 minutes solid at how stupid it is, and it really tickled me. I'd say at the moment that's one of my favorites. Have you seen me do the Gimp joke?
Yes.
Yeah,
that's a great end.
Thank you, because I love the energy for it at the end and the whole shouting and like it just. I'm proud of that one. I need to clean it up and tidy it up actually at the moment though, because it's starting to get a bit flat again. Because I think I'm shifting tonally, and so I think the lead up at the moment doesn't quite suit me anymore. So I need to rewrite it a bit. But I do. It's just so fun to do, and it's such a fun way to end a set. I'd probably say out of everything I've written long term, I'd probably say Gimp is probably my favorite. It just, like I said, it's just so much fun. It's silly. Yeah.
What I've seen recently is there's quite a few people bringing in like a new way to end sets, and it's quite refreshing to see. There's one guy local to me, a guy called Lewis Howard. I will not say what the ending of the set is. He kind of creates the end at the start.
Oh, amazing! Right.
And it involves the audience. So and it's like there's going to be a call to action. You know when it's going to happen, and that's the end. And he doesn't have that moment of, oh, thank you, I've been blah blah, and I'm off. He does he does that, sets it up, it hits at the end. Everyone knows it's over, and he just walks off. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
It's incredible because it is so hard to end a set well.
Yeah,
it's a real. It's tough though. In my fives, I can't end them properly. Because the Gimp joke, it's too much. It doesn't work in a short set because the way I have it at the moment, the setup's too much, and I have to just be like, cool, right, thanks. Or like someone might, because I've been ending at the moment on the joke about stopping my girlfriend leaving the country. Yeah, and that tends to get a few people will like that quite a bit and clap, and I will just be like, right, that's like half clap, bye, just run off. Because it's trying to get a proper good punchy end to a five. If you can do it, is golden. Like if you've got a good way of ending. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough knowing how to properly cut and cleanly get out on a good joke. Yeah, I find sometimes doing something stupid, being like, right, I've not got a lot of time, so here's a really silly throwaway thing, particularly if it's been quite not serious, but if it's slightly different to what you do, it's a bit of a release, and you can kind of leave them as they're kind of in like laughing and like, what just happened? Like,
yeah, I think the only way I've really come to the conclusion that I can end my sets now is that when it comes to the end, when I know I'm getting to the last punchline, I grab the mic stand and put it in the middle of the stage, and that's me kind of signaling to everybody we are closing, we are finishing. Because I never want to be in that position where I've just told my last joke, holding the microphone and go, and I'm done. If I made that movement to say, right, here's the stand, microphone's in it, last line's coming out, get a good laugh. Thank you, I've been Mark, see you later. And it kind of works like that until they go, yeah, we got wireless mics with no stand. You're like, oh, fuck.
That is one thing I will say. I want a mic in a stand in the middle of the stage. Like when the MC hands it to you or something, like I want the reset. I want to get up. I want to pull it out. I want to put the mics on the side, and I want to then start. It's like a not like a tick, but it's like a rhythm that kind of just sets me and calms me. Like knowing that I've got that moment to just kind of assess what's going on, pick up the mic, get that stand out the way, look around, see who's in, what they're feeling. Like I think it's a really important moment that allows you just to sort of set and get ready. No,
completely understand. It creates a distinguished part between the MC introducing you and you starting your material. Because otherwise, if they just hand you the mic, it's like passing the baton on, and there's been no reset in the room. There's been no stop, and we go. It's here you go, keep running with it. And you're like, okay.
You're there wandering with like a mic straight away, and you're like, how do I, or like, what, like, have I just got to go? I just got to go, I guess. Like, there's nothing, there's nothing logically that I can do now.
It's weird, isn't it? And I always find that moment when you come onto the stage, I always think it's quite important to introduce yourself. Even if you don't want to do that interaction, that's kind of like bookmarking the start of your set. I always find it kind of awkward when somebody comes on and just starts in a joke.
Yeah.
Then you go, right, that is completely and utterly boxed, rehearsed, done.
100%. 100%.
Because that's all that person wants to do is they want to do their 5 minutes. They want to get their joke out. And if I walk up to somebody, I don't go knock, knock. I go, hi, do you want to hear a joke? Hi, my name's Mark. Do you want to hear a joke? And you bring them in, not just go, yes. And I went to the shops today. No, great. Hold on, mate. Who are you again? Because I can't remember what the MC just said 30 seconds ago. So I always think that's quite important to introduce yourself into the room. It doesn't have to be long, but it starts a conversation.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's starting a conversation. Because I think if you are doing a character act or something wacky, a cold start can
works perfectly.
100%. But if you are, hey, I'm a guy who's kind of funny. Let's have a chat. You do want to be like, hey, I'm blah blah blah. Let's get going. Guys, because
there's no intrigue to you. Like if Yogi Bell came on the stage and said, hi, I'm Yogi, you'd be like, whatever.
Yeah.
But he comes on and there's intrigue behind what he's doing. And you're like, okay, this is cool. But for people like me and you, it's like, just come on and just start doing stuff. It's like, it's a bit awkward.
Yeah.
What do I want to ask you next? On this open mic circuit then, so you're nearly 100 gigs in or whatever it is. What's the things you'd like to see change on it?
It's a good question. I think not every night is, but I think some nights can run a bit too long. I think particularly on weeknights. Yeah, I think some nights can, if there's a lot of acts on, it can be sometimes a bit draining.
Yep.
I would say I don't really know where I stand on bringers, to be honest. I completely understand why bringers are used.
Yep.
So it helps fill the room. It's a little bit of it's a slight sort of, not seal of quality, but like there's at least someone else vouching that they're willing to come see this person on stage. So they shouldn't in theory be horrific. One of my issues with bringers when I do them is I love to networking sounds too corporate and gross, but I love speaking to other people there. I love going around and chatting to the acts and getting to know them, what they're up to, what kind of stuff they do, who they like what nights they go to. Because I think that's such a core part of comedy. Mm-hmm. It's such a people-based thing, right? It's all other comics running nights or running clubs or booking you. I think it's really important to build connections with people and get to know them and get on with them. And then you start potentially writing with people, or then people, that's how you meet people and do split bills, or then you go and do their night, they do your night, yada, yada. And I think that is slightly, I feel at least personally like my wings are slightly clipped when I have to have a bringer.
Yes.
Because if they're not particularly if they're not another comic, if I'm bringing someone I know or a friend along, I feel a big obligation because I'm taking their entire, say, Wednesday night where I know they've got a job, I know they've got to go up in the morning. I don't want to then go and just be like, okay, cool, can you just sit on that chair for 2 hours for me? And I'm just going to go chat and just go speak to people. So I'll see you later. Yeah. And I feel like I have to sort of look after them and be there and make sure that they're looked after, because they're doing me a favor at the end of the day, right? Yeah. And I think that's probably it's slightly different to most people's issues with bringers. But would I change bringers? I don't know. But there's a lot of them, and long nights are probably I'm young. I work from home. I live centrally. It's not hard for me to go to and from gigs. But then I meet people like yourself who are in like Hertfordshire and that, and you're like, it's like 2 hours for me, and I'm like, that's rough. You really gotta want to do this.
I think that's actually the point you just made about if you've got a bringer, your networking skills are limited that night. I think that's actually extremely valuable that it's been said. I've never thought about it like that, but as soon as you started talking about it, I'm like, I know exactly where he's going here, because I understand now. There's certain people I can bring to a gig and they'll hang around, they'll do whatever, and they may be on their phone or whatever, and they're fine. But there's certain people you go, no, you've come for me. I need to be. I'm your mate for this. I appreciate what you're doing. I'll buy you drinks. We'll sit down. We'll chat. And you can't then go, hi, Kristian, how are you doing? And just ignore my mate in the background kind of thing. He's like, what the fuck's going on here? That's actually a really good point. I think that's a well made. But what tip would you give to somebody who's kind of getting into this or going to be getting into this to actually get on stage? What's just one tip? One tip doesn't mean one's more important than the other, but one tip.
Just do it. Don't mess around. The best day to start is today. Just find a gig and go.
Yeah.
Don't put it off, because the longer you're not doing it, the less time you're growing and you'll regret it.
Yeah.
You're gonna 1% of people might be amazing, but you're probably going to be crap. We all are. I'm 100 gigs in. I don't think I'm good. But it's early days. It's about just getting it done and getting through it. Because if it is something you actually genuinely want to do, you will get better. Just keep going. I hear a lot of people who say like, "Oh, I'm sort of thinking about it. I'm not sure. Maybe I will." Like, and I'm like, just do it. Do go watch nights. I think I do think that is a good thing to do. Go and get a feel, like get an idea of sort of how a night runs. Because I think I'm quite an anxious person. I overthink a lot. So like sort of knowing the rhythm of like how does it run? How do people do it? How do people perform? Like how long and stuff. That's useful. But genuinely, the single and only best piece of advice I can give is just do it. Just get on stage. You've got literally nothing to lose.
Yeah, it's very true. You can be there at night and go, I'm not really feeling it, but ultimately, at the end of the day, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Exactly. And people are like really impressed by comedy. No one's going to be like, "Oh, what, you do comedy? Oh, that's so cringe." Like most people who you say it to, like, "Oh my god, I could never do that. That is insane." Yeah. So the fact you've even if you do one gig and you never gig again, you've done one more gig than most people have the backbone to do.
So, what's your plans then for progression? Where do you want to be? I'm guessing we want to be. We were really the top, but how do you see things going?
So the one thing I keep saying to myself is, as long as I can see progression, then I'm happy. So that's getting longer slot, doing better, quote unquote, better gigs and stuff. Yep. I want to just keep chipping away, just keep progressing. Maybe work up to be doing a split bill at some point next year. Maybe in a couple of years up to Edinburgh. I'm a firm believer in that you can only make a first impression once. Yep. So I like, if I'm going to do it, I want to make sure that I'm solid. I do ideally as well I want to have a good enough sort of repertoire of material under my belt, and then I'm already gigging a bit out of London. Like I do gig outside of London. I think that is very important, particularly early days. You're going to get longer slots. Crowds are going to be friendlier. But I want to do, because obviously I'm from Leeds. My parents live in Leeds. Like I've got a hub up north that I can stay at. So when I've got a real, I don't know, solid half an hour's worth of material under my belt that I know that I can sort of chop and change and work with, I want to start trying to do some more gigs up north as well, hopefully in some sort of actually try and get on some clubs up there potentially.
Yeah, like Frog and Bucket and things like that.
That kind of thing. Yeah, I think it's easy to get sucked into London, and there's a whole nation out there, and they're not all the London metropolitan liberal elite, right? As to quote Stuart Lee. So yeah, I will just keep pushing on. Just get I'm trying. Obviously, the goal long term is to be a full-time paid comic. That's what I want for my life. But it's just trying to keep on ticking on with the little wins. Keep taking new fives to Gong shows. Keep taking them there and trying to get them as a sort of stamp of approval. Like, well, it passed, so it can be like it's fine, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And just keep plugging on, keep applying for nights, trying to get into comps and do well. And just keep trying to just keep my nose to the wheel, or whatever the phrase is. I don't know. the tongue to the radiator. I don't know.
Tongue to the radiator. Okay. So this does go well. You end up with a nice little 20-minute slot in Hammersmith live at the Apollo, and and the producers come up to you and say, "So, what music do you want to walk onto? What do you pick?"
It'd have to be Tea Time by Wolfpack. It's a band I love. I followed for many, many years now. Very funky. I love them. And it's just a high energy tune. Like I've always had it in my head as like walk on music. Like it's a great, I feel like you could just run out to it. It's very high energy. I think that'd be my go-to.
I'll have to look that up because I have no idea who that is. I feel so old when I'm talking to some of you guys. It's ridiculous. Because you are still in your 20s, aren't you?
Yeah, clinging on. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember travel card. No, not travel card. What is it?
Rail card.
That's the one. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Rail card. As we are kind of winding down, I want to set you the Comedian's Challenge, which I'm sure you're going to be up for.
Yes, absolutely.
For any new listeners, I like to set all the comedians a challenge to tell a joke from this book called The Little Book of Shit Jokes by Sid Finch. The comedians get to pick their joke, but they only get to pick it by page number. So whatever they get, I have no idea. Whatever they get, they have no idea. And the idea being, see if they can integrate it into a set or do it standalone, tell a joke on stage, film it, and then tag us in it on Instagram. And then we'll share it out to the world for everybody to see what their efforts are like. So if you want to give, and the other caveat is if you pick a page number that's already been picked, we have to go again. And bear in mind, this will be episode 40 something, 46, 47, maybe 48. There's a few pages that have gone. So we may be doing some editing to get down to which page we want soon. There's only page between page 5 and 95.
Okay. I don't think it might be done. We'll see. 36.
You are fine. There was one joke on here already that's been done. Another joke that's on the page. So the joke I'd like you to tell on stage, film it, is, as a doctor, I've never made a joke about an unvaccinated hippopotamus, but I'll give anything a shot.
Okay. That's I mean, yeah, the title of the book is accurate.
Yes. It does not pretend to be something it is not. You can change the joke how you want to, so long as obviously, I think, so long as you ended up with, but I'll give anything a shot, and it's to do with vaccinations.
Okay.
I mean, I can imagine if you're trying to tell a joke with the word hippopotamus in it, and you trip over that word, the joke fucks.
No, okay. No, my brain's firing. This is exciting. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah,
I love it. I love it when this happens because people start thinking, "What should I do? How do I do it? Where do I do it? Do I bring it in or do I just chick it out and just do it standalone? Doesn't matter. It's just a bit of fun." But immediately, as soon as the joke is said, the comedian's brain goes, "Where can I fit something like that in?"
Yeah,
and it's cool. It's really cool.
I think I might. I think there's an idea there. We'll see.
Hey, if it ends up in your Live at the Apollo set, I want a credit.
Absolutely, you and voices Sid whatever.
Yeah, Sid Finch. I believe he's Australian. I haven't actually really been able to track him down. One day I'd love to. It'd be quite funny if I'll come on your podcast. Yeah. Do you want to do the Comedian's Challenge? You might be familiar with some of these. Dear, oh dear. But no, where can people find you then online and track you down?
So my Instagram account, which is my name is spelled with a K. I always have to preface that. It's Kristian_comedy. That's my Instagram handle. That's the only place you'll find me at the moment. I might branch out, but at the moment, please go follow me and drop me a DM and say hi.
Cool. And you can find us on Instagram at Open Mic Comedy Pod. We've got a website, which is openmiccomedypod.com. Best place to get hold of us is Instagram. If you're a comedian that want to come on this, just drop me a DM and we'll look at getting you booked in as soon as we can. Any listeners, please, whichever platform you're listening to this on, give it a nice little 5-star rating and a follow because it helps grow the audience and gives these lovely comedians a bigger audience to speak to. And until next time, thank you very much for your time today, Kristian.
Thanks for having me, Mark. It's been a real treat.
And I will speak to you all very, very soon.